welcome everyone. This is the first in the JUARA webinar series. Some of you know us most as a beauty line, a beauty skincare line. So what the heck are we doing webinars? Well, really on fighting fear and staying sane. It actually makes a lot of sense. Our brand is founded on the philosophy of wellness, and beauty is just one way, and wellness is inside out, and especially in these times. We found that this would be a great value that we could add back to you, the customer, the community, resources that we have offered to address this situation that we have right now, which is rather unexpected and rather unprecedented for lots of us. So a lot of people we've spoken with have expressed emotions, including fear, uncertainty, loneliness, and guilt. Some concerns are practical, from how to avoid binge eating at home, and concerns of maintaining sanity with kids and spouse all the time. And some people are just scared. Some people speak of generosity and kindness. And so we are bringing resources to address all these various topics. This is the first in a series. We'll be having other topics that range from science to just relationship therapy, because we're all huddled together now. And this is how the call is going to work. Before I introduce Sheila, who I know this is why you came on. And so without further ado, quick logistics, how the call will work. Sheila will be presenting, but we want it to be interactive. There is a chat section. You'll see that chat button. So if you have any questions or comments, and we'll be talking to you. So if there's any exercises, please type your answers in there. And we have Anna, who is from JUARA, also on the call, monitoring and help administrating. So if you have any questions or technical difficulties, or if anybody else can't seem to get on, whatever reasons, Anna will help you out. So let me introduce Sheila. Hi, how are you doing? How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Thank you, Meta.
So Sheila is a former tech executive, consultant, and business performance expert. She's an avid student and teacher of personal transformation and the author of Journey Back to Me, Touring the Landscape of My Mind, which is a fun and thought-provoking ride through the mind. It's consistent with research in brain science on fear and happiness. This imaginative tale gift wraps all the power of groundbreaking self-help book into one roller coaster story. So the book has received 5-star reviews by critics, and it has also gotten an award for the book cover. So it's a nice book cover, and its lessons, it's perfect for the challenges that we're finding ourselves in today, and it teaches us how to govern our thoughts to increase joyful living. So currently Sheila lives with her husband in Hilton Head, South Carolina, not too far from where we are in New York right now. And she has also served on the executive board of the Women's Association of Hilton Head Island. And she's been doing that for many years. So an adventurer at heart. Sheila also joined the JUARA team in 2019, and we have been learning so much from her, and we're so happy and so grateful that she's with us. Without further ado, Sheila, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Meta. When I wrote the story, I had no idea how timely and important the lessons would be based on the current situation that we find ourselves. The book, Journey Back to Me, is about a story about a woman named Liza, and she gets a tour of the inside of her mind. And as she goes through this tour, she actually gets to see how fear has actually shaped her life in terms of her thoughts, her decisions, the depth of love in her relationship, and her general experience or presence of joy in her life. And so she visits all of these different places, each one having a lesson on fear and happiness. And through Liza, we get to see the crazy things that we do when fear is operating in the background and when fear is operating in the foreground. And this is really relevant today because each day when we look and see what's happening in the news, we actually get to see, how fear is operating in terms of the announcements and how our thoughts work. So what's most important today, given the state, is for us to be able to learn how to govern our thoughts and to be very selective in which ones we entertain and which ones we let go. So there's this one chapter in the book that's really relevant. It's like it conveys how we like plague ourselves with worry. It starts off with this one tiny question, what if? And that one fearful thought leads to another and another and another. And before we know it, it impairs our judgment and influences our action and every action we take. And I call it the what if roller coaster or the what if worry coaster. And most of us are riding an emotional roller coaster almost every day. And given the situation, it's warranted, but we're gonna need to know how to stop and get off the worry coaster, because fear unmanaged often hijacks our thinking and blocks the very thing that we need most right now, which is conscious thought. So this is what fighting fear and staying sane looks like on the inside, is we're going to need to learn how to calm our mind and actually distance ourselves from our thoughts. And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to be working to precondition the mind to deal with bigger and bigger fears. And we're going to do this through practice. So especially right now, as we look out, if we're looking for peace, we're not going to find it externally. But what I can promise you is that you can always find peace internally. Research has showed that just 4 minutes of meditation or mindfulness a day actually has huge benefits. So the question is, how do you want to spend your day? Do you want to spend it fraught with worry, or do you want to be productive? There's some of us, most of us are working from home. Some of us are not able to be gathering crowds of 3 or more, so the tightening and constraining in terms of the boundaries and what our limitations are they're alarming for most of us. And so at the end of this whole scenario, the question I have to ask you is, okay, so at the end of this, because this too will pass, at the end of 2020, the coronavirus quarantine, how are you going to be different? What's going to be different about you? Are your relationships going to be different? Are they going to be more powerful, forged through solidarity, going through hardships together? Or are they going to be damaged and frayed? Are you going to have healthier habits, healthier eating habits? Or are you going to weigh 20 pounds more from visiting the pantry each time after you see the news? Is that, are you going to be wasting your time fretting on social media and scaring yourself? Or are you going to advance and finally learn that thing that you've wanted to do with your extra time? The choices are yours. And so, so one of the things that I encourage us to do is to create an anchor. So I have a question for you. Given at the end, when this is over, what 3 words would you use to describe yourself at the end? It's like there's no doubt that we're creating memories. So what kind of story are you creating? And at the end, what do you want to be known for in terms of who you were and how you interacted with others? It's like, so I've done this exercise myself as well. It's like I've actually done this for over a year. My words are calm, caring, and resourceful. And these 3 words, what they have the ability to do is they become an anchor for you. And during these tumultuous times, what we're going to do, what we're going to show you this evening, is how you can use that anchor to ground yourself and have you remember what's most important. Now that sounds funny that I say remember, but what I'm going to show you as we go throughout the evening is that we forget. It's like that's one of the characteristics of the brain. We forget the things that are most important to us. So what I invite you to do right now is, to think about those 3 words.
And for these 3 words, as you have them, please write them on the chat. We will be doing just a random giveaway of a free ebook for anyone who has contributed their 3 words. And if you don't have them right now, that's okay, because it's gonna come. keep it in mind, you know, as you listened and you hear what Sheila's saying, that these 3 words can help you define or refine what you may be thinking and how you want to be thinking about yourself looking back. And so just by articulating those 3 words in the chat, you'll be walking away from this webinar with something concrete that you can work with and start with. So happy
Yeah.
free wording.
So here's the good news is that there are resources that are always available to you, no matter what the circumstances. This is one of the things that we forget, is that inner strength, inner peace, and inner wisdom are always available to you. And that what I want you to know is that you need to remember you've got this. Everything that you need to be able to handle everything that's coming at us, you have. And I want to talk about some of those things. So what the heck are these wells, or this picture that we're looking at? In Journey Back to Me, what I do is I use metaphors a lot to be able to convey complex concepts so that they're easily understood. And these are actually what I called in the book the bottomless pray-fors. And they're symbolic, or analogies and metaphors of the inexhaustible resources that are available in terms of inner strength, inner peace, and inner wisdom. And that sometimes things get in the way, but let's talk about that more. First one is inner strength. And you guys are familiar with this, is that it's always available when you need it, always. And it shows up when you least expect it. Often when you think it's hopeless, you feel helpless, you feel overwhelmed, inner strength will show up and save the day. And then you're kind of surprised, thinking like, what happened? It provides clarity and purpose. And when you'll know when inner strength comes, because the doubt shifts to a boost in vitality, self-confidence, and determination. And this is always available to us. It's something for you to remember. The second well is what I call inner wisdom. In inner wisdom, these are the answers that come magically from nowhere. We've all experienced this phenomenon. It's like, so inner wisdom arrives unbidden with helpful insights. They come in the form of epiphanies and creativity, and they also provide clarity and purpose and direction in life. So we've also always experienced inner wisdom. Then there comes the other one, the middle bottomless pray-for. And this one's called inner peace. This one is different than the others. The other 2 are always available, and one shows up, they both show up unbidden and unexpected, always welcomed, right? Divine timing. This one, however, is always already here. And I'm going to say something radical. It's your natural state to have inner peace. Is that the access to it is it's already always here, but you need to remove the concerns and judgments that you add that prevent you from experiencing it. So rather than, I thought it would be interesting just to read a little excerpt from the book, just to talk about how powerful inner peace is. And then, so you'd get an inkling of why this plays such an important role in us being able to govern our thoughts and be responsible for which ones we entertain and which ones we let go. So this is a description of inner peace. We turn to the second well. This is inner peace. The wall of the well and the small roof above it are made of corrugated metal. The well shimmers in the sunlight like a mirage in the desert. Sometimes I see the well clearly. Let me do this. I want to see you guys, so hold on just a second. Okay, so here we go. Sometimes I see the well clearly. Other times the well melts into the surroundings, no longer visible. Inner peace is always here if you seek, but seek you must. I realize it's my desire that makes that and determination, my desire to see, that determines the well's visibility. If my attention shifts to anything else, the well is almost invisible. The well is there, but unseen, unfelt, but there, waiting. I seek, the well comes into clear view. Not sure how I do it, I ask, how do I seek inner peace? The eyes look surprised. Why seek what is always already here? Now it's my turn to be surprised. If inner peace is always already here, what is it that I must seek? That's the question. If it's already always here, what is it that we need to seek? You seek to remove your barriers that prevent you from experiencing it. Oh, I pause. What are my barriers? I know the answer before I complete the question and blurt out, my thoughts. At the same time, the voice replies, your thoughts. Jinx, we both shout, you owe me a Coke. Of course, my thoughts, the ones I cling to instead of letting go, my judgments, concerns, and distractions. These are my self-created barriers to inner peace. I lean to take a small sip from the metal bucket. As soon as the liquid touches my lips, profound stillness calms every fiber of my being. Looking down, I catch my mirror-like reflection in the still waters of inner peace. I drop a small stone into the well and watch as it hits the surface of the water. Not a splash or a ripple, not even a sound, smooth as glass. The stone, embraced by the water, sits quietly at the bottom of the pool. The water is undisturbed, a divine demonstration of what's possible when barriers are removed. Goosebumps rise in a standing ovation. I bask in the perfect stillness until inner peace melts again into my surroundings. So that gives you a clue of like what's available in terms of inner peace, is that when we govern our thoughts and when we anchor, is that peace is always available to us. And what we're going to teach you tonight is how you can be able to detect when those barriers are in the way and let them go so that you have access to inner peace. The last thing I said in the book was, the waters that the bottomless pray for are inexhaustible, and that's what I want you to know tonight. Their gifts arrive unexpected, miraculously timed, and always welcome. Is there a way that I can access their remarkable powers, I ask? Inner strength, inner peace, inner wisdom, they're what we pray for, said the voice. Ah, so they are. You may never see them again, but trust they are always there for you. Thank you, I say to the wells with my arms extended high in an air hug. I can no longer see them, but I know they are there. So it's a metaphor, but it's a powerful one to just let you know is that you're not alone and that resources are available to you.
Wow. Thanks, Sheila.
Yeah, so the thing to remember, let me see here, go back to my slide, is that the inner peace, the wisdom, the strength, these are not unfamiliar to you. You've experienced them before. It's like there's no wimps here in this room. Like this is a room full of superstars. Is that you have a long list of overcoming challenges with health, career, relationships, finances, faith, family, natural disasters, loss of loved ones, and of course we have a new one today. But what I'm trying to say is that challenges are not new to you, and you guys have experienced them over and over again with success, and each success breeds success again. But what's really interesting is that as successful as we are and as much as we've achieved, when we're confronted with new and unfamiliar uncertainty, when we get overwhelmed, we forget, which is just really fascinating, is that we forget our past victories, we forget we're not alone, and we forget that what we do really matters. It's just a phenomenon. It's interesting. It's if I asked you right now to be able to make a list of all your achievements, like I know what will happen is you'll write a couple and then you can't think of any more, which will be completely ridiculous because the list is huge, but it's just so interesting. And it's because of the way the brain works. It's because if I asked you to write a list of failures or things that went wrong, or where the inner wisdom and inner strength didn't appear when you thought you wanted it, the list would be long. But it's because when fear actually, or situations with fear actually trigger the amygdala, which goes into long-term memory, and pleasure is temporary. It's like, so it's harder to remember. So one of the things that would be useful is for you after this session is to write down a list of your accomplishments, just how much you've really accomplished. And what that does is like your biggest defense against fear is confidence in yourself. And like I said, the peculiar thing about that is when uncertainty comes, we completely forget how capable we are and how supported we are. So here's a little diagram about fear. It's like sometimes when I say that I wrote about a book about fear, people just kind of back off and they think, I don't have a problem with fear. You know, like I don't need to read anything about fear. Because most of us are very capable and we're very adept at being able to handle challenging situations. And fear, like we're courageous, we've trained ourselves. We've got things that we can do where we're very effective in the face of fear. But in this little progression I'm going to show you is there's other elements of fear that operates in the background that we're probably mostly unconscious to, that actually erodes our joy or experience of life on a grand scale, often more than even the fears that we know about. So let me just walk through this with you. First, there's aligned. It's like we're fully aligned, is that we have full power. There's an absence of doubt. We have clarity in what's important, and we're unencumbered by the circumstances. That's our favorite place to be. It's like we want to be there more than we're anywhere else on this timeline. Then something happens, and then there's a subtle unease. It's often it's just an inexplicable loss of power. We may experience a vague feeling that something's off, and it's something that we're probably unconscious of. Then as that goes further down the line, there's unconscious fear. And an unconscious fear, like there's a hidden belief that we think that there's a threat or a painful, or something that may cause pain or a danger, and it starts influencing our thinking and influencing our behavior. And a lot of times we don't even know that it's doing that. And then there's conscious fear, which is something we're all familiar with, is that it's anxiety over a specific danger. And this is interesting because you might watch yourself and see how you're actually dealing with the coronavirus right now. Is your reactions can range from irritation to rage to denial to dread. There's like two spectrums in terms of like how you may be relating to it. And then there's a last one that up until this time was mostly uncommon, and we're seeing this much more now, which is amplified fear. And that's anxiety that's amplified with the external conditions, the uncertainty, and the probability of a dreaded outcome. So that's where a lot of us are now. So what's interesting to note on this scale is a lot of things are happening. The first one is that as we progress from subtle unease to amplified fear, the fear is growing greater and greater. Is like, and the thing that we want to watch out for is that there's you and there's your fear. And as you progress down there, as you progress down the line, you have the probability that fear actually starts running the show. And the trick that we're going to want to learn is to be able to actually separate ourselves from our fearful thoughts, because when fear's in control, that's when we are at our least amount of power. It's like, and when we can separate it, even if the fear's there, we can return to our powerful selves despite the fear being present. So as you go down the progression, some more likelihood that that fear will take over. So as the fear gets larger, our perception of our abilities and ourself gets smaller. So that's where that forgetting comes into play, is that As the uncertainty gets bigger and the challenges look bigger, then we get smaller if we're not careful in watching our thinking. So, let me see, so it's easy to get overwhelmed. So,
well, that's definitely something that I can relate to, and I think a lot of us can relate to, just sharing something, an example of how soon and how quickly forget. We have, just even as a company, JUARA, we've, or me as a person, as a co-founder, I had to remind myself too of the past things that we've conquered over time, because um, I had to remind myself and my co-founders, like, hey, we've been through the 2008 recession crash where we didn't know what was going to happen. Of course, it's different, but we were able to survive a situation. And I think, many people can relate to this. Honestly, you own a business, you run a business, and then something happens and the rug is pulled out from underneath you.
right.
So the first thing is a gasp. I was like, oh my goodness. But then we go into the well of like, we've survived this before. I personally have gone through a political revolution in Indonesia, where we were in quarantine and hiding and had to then leave the country. But I had to remind myself that, I've been through this before. It's filed away in my memory, but these faculties are here. And so to remember them makes it a lot easier to summon that strength to do it again. Here we are, even though the specifics of the situation are new, it's almost like the brain has been in practice
Right.
over the years for this. So I totally hear you about writing down the things that we've gone through, the things that we've survived in life, really, to help us get us through the next few months.
Yeah, no, it's like one of the things that I stress is that each success breeds success. Is that as you have success, what happens is you conquer fear, and then your confidence to be able to conquer fear the next time is actually increased. And so then when you view the next obstacle, you're actually viewing it in a more favorable light, in terms of not only can you accomplish it, but it's like it isn't near as scary anymore either. It's like, so success breeds success, and that's what we want to do. But in order to be able to do that, we have to prepare in advance. It's like we have to, in order to bring forth our best selves, we have to, in the worst of circumstances, we prepare and intentionally do that in advance, because we can teach ourselves to detect the flaws in our thinking, to catch them, and actually redirect our minds to something fruitful. So let me go back to the presentation. Is that, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so here's how to distance your thoughts. Is that, so the key is to be able to recognize that you need to interrupt something. It's like you recognize the loss of power, or it can be much more powerful than that, that you're terrified, or that you've been fixated on the same, concern all day long. Is that we want to be able to interrupt it. And so the way you interrupt that is you separate yourself from your thoughts. And again, I said this before, there's you and there's your thoughts. And a lot of times they're collapsed, and that's when we have a loss of power. But we can actually observe our thoughts, as scary as they can be, and we want to be able to separate them and calm the mind. Now with me is that I've been practicing and trying a lot of different methods. Reliably, it's going back to my breath. So in the book, I actually describe a few different things that Liza does to actually ground herself and create calm. And, but I find that the breathing, just, deep inhale, deep exhale, and just keep breathing, calms my mind, calms my body. Then I'm able to distance myself from my thoughts, and then I can start the interruption process. Once you've actually done that, you can redirect your mind by asking questions. What's most important, and what do I want to do? That's usually the two that I ask myself. But what's really important is that we want to use our anchor here. This is where your anchor comes into play, is that when you're redirecting your mind, you have the opportunity, when we say, what's the most important and what do I want to do? What I do is I use my anchor and I say, given that what I want to be known for is being calm, being caring, being resourceful, what action can I take that's consistent with those three characteristics? So that's why we want you to have those 3 words before you leave here, because those are your anchor. Those are there to ground you. Those will help you shift your perspective. And when you do that, then you can respond instead of react. And once you're grounded, you can trust yourself to know what to do, even if you're scared out of your mind and fear is present. So how are we doing on the chat in terms of, do we have some chats in there in terms of people sharing their 3 words?
We definitely have the 3 words. I'm enjoying them. I love them. Some calm, caring, productive, present, healthy, and grateful, resilient, resourceful, and kind, peaceful, loving, and grateful. Wow, this is such a kind group. Strong, grateful, resilient, breathe, gratitude, courage, compassionate, resilient, evolved, optimistic, balanced, and human.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, so this is it's a positive group. And you know, Sheila, what you were saying, once we get these 3 words, what I was thinking is we can go beyond from just acting, from reacting to acting, but also this to being positive and actually taking a look at is something that is fearful, and thinking what is the positive, and you know, how can I actually create something that's positive for others. And what's interesting is I found after graduating through the conquering and the addressing the fear comes the generosity of giving. Because I'm so impressed. Everyone in this chat group,
Yeah,
they're not survival terms. They're thriving.
no.
They're like being kind and, you know, gratitude, courage. They're not. It's not survival. This just speaks to me about the power we actually have within ourselves to know and imagine and to know who we are and what we want to be. So I just wanted to say that's a very nice, you know, as you talk about this and everyone's words are actually going from active even to generous. It's already giving back, because these are all words that are great and impactful, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us. So,
Right, because
on you guys.
if you want to put your worries on mute, being in service to another is one of the best ways to be able to put those on mute. So, okay, very good. It's like, so let me return back to the final thoughts. Is that, so we see how to distance our thoughts. Again, it's to interrupt, shift your perspective, and then respond instead of react. And that's your access to actually creating those 3 words and making sure that at the end of this dilemma or challenge or crisis, you know, that's what will be known as. Okay, so here's my tips in terms of what to do. Is like I usually just do concepts, but here's like what I'm recommending. The first one is like, so we're going to be talking about like how you do that in terms of managing your thoughts throughout the day. The first one is to anchor your day before it starts. Like one of the worst things that you can do is actually start accessing the news before you've actually grounded yourself, before you've actually created your intention for the day, reminded yourself of what your 3 words are, and reminding what is the result that you want to produce out there and what's the result that you want to produce in here. So anchor your day before your thoughts, anchor your day before it starts. And then the second is to reflect it when it ends. I'll tell you, I'm going to go back to anchor when it starts. I'll tell you what I do. It's like I piggyback onto a habit that already exists. What I do is when I'm brushing my teeth, I actually think about my words, and then I also think about the challenges of the day, and I visualize myself conquering the challenges of the day. I know that sounds corny, but it really works. It's like one of the reasons the what if roller coaster that I described is so intense is because we're visualizing the worst of all circumstances. That's where our mind is really good at. And what we want to do is just redirect that capacity to really make things real for us to visualize the good things, you know, I visualize myself conquering the challenges throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, I reflect and I look to see where I did well and where I didn't. Sometimes I rock and sometimes I just completely bomb. But what I do is I just look at it and I don't beat myself up. I just look and then I renew my conviction to be calm and caring and resourceful the next day. And then I just injected this. I have actually learned this in the last few months on a scale that I haven't done before. And this is working with JUARA. And that is to inject mindful, that's a key word, mindful self-care throughout. It's like throughout the day, you can actually do the same activities that you've always done, but when they're done mindfully, they're actually nourishing, soothing, calming when they're done mindfully. So we'll come up with a few examples for you, but you inject these mindful self-care throughout the day. Just a few minutes each day makes a huge difference. It restores balance. It strengthens connection. It boosts creativity, and it quiets the mind chatter, which is those thoughts that you want to distance yourself. So that's what we do. So I think we want some self-care tips. Meta, what do you think?
I think so too. Before I actually was going to share one of mine. It's time to do a giveaway.
Okay, cool.
Shall we do that?
Like a book.
So if you haven't written your 3 words, or if you'd like to share them, we respect if you want to keep it private, but if you'd like to share them, do so now, because we're going to pick a winner. So Anna has gone through Random Generator, the magic of Anna, and the winner for a free book, a free ebook, is Anastasia Colonna. Anastasia, congratulations. We will contact you, or how should Anastasia connect with us to get the book? Should we get her email and then we download? Is that how we are going to do it? Anna? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You have an email, we'll get her an ebook.
Okay. You could send us a private chat or a message, but get us your email and we will send you a copy of the ebook or access to it. So for the next giveaway, we're going to ask all of you to share what is a favorite self-care tip in the chat. By self-care, I'm just going to debunk a myth. And, so the skincare girl, says self-care, it's not just bubble baths and face masks. I mean, that's kind of the commercial way we think of the stereotypical self-care thing. But it's really whatever you need at the time that you need it. And it's done with a sense of mindfulness. It can be preventative or it can be reactive. For example, the idea is to do it mindfully versus reckless abandon, whether it is a face mask or if it's spending time with your pets or that very intentional deep dive into your pint of ice cream. I know I've done that a few times already and maybe I'm not alone. So just something to think of. I'm just going to share one of mine that didn't. It wasn't a ritual. I love coffee. I used to just get it all the time. I'll just buy it, from Starbucks. And then I would pop the Nespresso capsules at home, which I still enjoy. But then I started making my own pour overs. And I decided at one point, since I was doing it every day, it was going to become my morning ritual that when, you pour the water over the coffee grinds and you let it sit, because that's how the pour over works. You grind your beans, you put it into the filter. You wait for 30 seconds. Because that's when the coffee blooms. If any of you are familiar with grinding your own coffee and making your own pour overs, it's this beautiful sort of bubbling, blooming effect that happens. And the aroma is amazing. So instead of counting 30 seconds, I've realized that if I take 3 deep breaths and enjoy the scent of the coffee, that's 30 seconds. So that has become my very intentional self-care ritual. It sets my day up on the right foot. My coffee tastes delicious because it's like I've already started drinking before I've drunk it. Basically does amazing things. So I invite you to share what some of your tips are, whether, we've heard things like, I dance, I put on a song and I dance, or and just share, and or one that you want to pick up, but you were, by stating it, is it an intention that you will follow?
All right, so we're anchoring our day, reflecting when it ends, and then injecting mindful self-thought self-care throughout. And so the thought that I want to leave you with is that you got this. We've talked about the bottomless pray fors, or these resources that you have available to you. We've talked about how important inner peace is, and the key to having inner peace is to be able to watch our thoughts, govern our thoughts, and be very selective about which ones we cling to, is what I call those, and which ones we let go. And then most importantly is that when we find ourselves and we're hooked, that we have the access to being able to separate ourselves from the fearful thought. Is that you can do this a number of ways in terms of deep breathing. Sometimes I cheat. What I do is I just pick up the phone and I get on the phone with somebody that helps me get myself unhooked, is what I call it, as like so that my mind is redirected to something more fruitful. So what I wanted to leave you with is that you got this with practice. And so what I encourage you to do is use your anchor daily, and then follow the practices that we've shared today. So I want to thank you for being here. Thank you, Meta. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Sheila. That's a lot. It's good to hear, and it's always good to hear, to re-anchor myself to those 3 words, because it's one of those things where we hear it, now I know it, but even hearing it again and again, it's good. It's good reinforcement, just for practice over and over again. Does anyone have any questions? I know we have 2 lined up that was sent to me, but I want to see if anyone else has it. Oh, and if anyone is interested also in Sheila's book, we've just shared the link. It's available on Amazon, the Journey Back to Me book. And so hope you check it out. But any questions? Well, I'll start with the 2 that I've got, Sheila.
Alrighty.
This is a fun one. I've got my sanity. I can handle it. But it's these hashtag COVIDiots that are driving me crazy. That's, I guess, again, that's the reaction. It's like, I'm fine, but they're the ones who are crazy. And for those of you who are not familiar, COVIDiot is a new term for COVID, for the virus, and idiots. And it usually refers to people who do things that make it harder for the rest of us, like they hoard without thinking about the impact on other people who might need the resources, or are still out partying and congregating because they don't acknowledge that either they don't believe the virus is a thing, or they're not getting, or they don't care if they get it, just basically under the bucket of irresponsible. And that's the term for it. So it's infuriating when you see people doing that. So how do you address that sort of feeling?
It's a great question, because I've been there as well. It's like I live on an island, and of course we've had all the spring breakers here bringing who knows what to the island, endangering us all. It's like, so my response, because I don't want to say answer, my response is to the person that asked the question, is that the first thing, and I'm saying this to everyone, is that notice how you're looking outside yourself for the answer. How do I deal with this? Is like, so I can give you some considerations, but my answer won't be near as good and applicable as the one that you'll come up with by going internally and asking yourself the same question. Is that so? But here's some considerations. Is that it's definitely fear-based thought, so that's good. Definitely, my guess is that on a scale of 1 to 10, where is that person in terms of the COVID, irritating them? It's probably 7, 8, 9. It sounded like they were pretty frustrated. Is that it's really good that they actually get themselves grounded and back to something to where they're not enraged with another person's behavior. Here's the point: there isn't any advice that I can give that will actually be effective in being able to change the behavior of the COVIDiots. But what there is to know is that by you being angry, or the person being angry, is that they are eroding their experience in life while they're in that frame of mind. They're probably getting snippy with their loved ones. They're probably angry. There's no joy And most of all is that when it comes to their anchor and the 3 words that they want to at the end of that, it's probably pretty far from that in terms of what they're of how they're behaving. So so I would just leave it there. It's like that's a thought you want to let go of, is to see the impact on your life, see what it's doing, and then you go from there.
So essentially what you're saying, if you can't control what they're going to do anyway, be aware of how I am reacting and what impact that's having on myself and how that relates to the 3 words that I
Yeah, it's like, so for me, when I look at it, it's like, okay, given that I want to be known as, and I want my experience to be calm, caring, and resourceful, what is it that I could do to make a difference? Now, what I might want to do is write a letter. I might want to go down to the beach and tell them, you know, ask them something or make a request, but it's like, but you've got to go internally to actually get the answer, is that, and to know that if your attention is out there and you're giving all your power to the COVIDiots, that's not where you want to be. You want to bring it back to here, to where you're actually making a contribution, your peace of mind and your inner peace. So we would say, based on what we know right now, is what we taught today, that's a barrier to inner peace. And what you want to do is move it out of the way.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Because there is one more that I have. All righty. So one question. I was fine until they said we have to be in lockdown mode where I can't even leave my house. We have plenty of space and we have yards, but this restriction makes me feel claustrophobic. What do I do?
That's interesting. It's funny how we can create our own traps, but we don't want anybody else to create one for us. Is that with the restrictions and constraints, especially when somebody's infringing on our freedoms, we get a little kooky. So that's really easy to understand that someone would be upset and claustrophobic. The reality is that what's really keeping them from inside, they can actually go outside. And what is it that they can't do that they couldn't do, you know, before? Is that what there is there's a thought about the restrictions that's actually in the way, and they need to actually look, and like you said, go and actually examine it to see what it is that they're really afraid of.
So you're saying that sometimes we put restrictions on ourselves and it's okay, but if somebody else says the same thing, it's like,
yeah.
And
well,
so,
I mean, we create our own traps without even knowing that we're doing it. But when someone else creates a trap for us or binds us or puts us in a box, the restraints are really hard to take. Is that and it would be easy to get fixated on those, you know, all day long and destroy our daily experience.
So are you saying that sometimes being fixated on that gets in the way of the realistic, like, wait, what is it that we may have actually more freedoms than we realize, but we just got so fixated on being told that we can't actually do this, that we lose our power and kind of being able to really navigate freely in our mind to think about the restrictions that we've been given. So with that, I want to say thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for giving us your time. I hope you found this valuable to you. And I just want to especially thank you because this is the first kickoff. So this is our this is our first. So with that in mind, thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone. And Sheila, if anybody has any questions for you or if they want to reach out, is there anything, any way that you'd like to be
my website is SheilaDFerguson.com. It's like, and if anybody wants to send me an email, it's Sheila, and it's SHEILA, Sheila at Sheila, D as in Diane, Ferguson, like SD Ferguson. So Sheila@SheilaDFerguson.com. And I want to thank everybody for attending. I really appreciate it. And Meta, thank you for having me.
So thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good, safe, and healthy night. Bye, all.
Bye.